Mr Speaker.
Marama Davidson.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Tēnā koutou I te whare. Mr Speaker, I have some questions because yesterday in the House during question time, David Seymour asked the Prime Minister if he had checked to make sure that people were actually homeless instead of just renovating. And the Prime Minister responded and said no, but perhaps we should have a policy for checking to make sure that people are not renovating and are instead homeless. And the Prime Minister rolled along and laughed with it, joked around, and so did much of the benches actually. So I have some questions. And I would like to know that, whether, given the Prime Minister's behaviour and joking response in the House yesterday to a question around homelessness, will he apologise to New Zealanders for not taking the issue seriously? I have quite a few questions, Mr Speaker. I would like to know if the Prime Minister will apologise to the 11-year-old girl who loves school, particularly math, reading and languages, also Beyonce and Kapahaka, looks forward to school and wants to do well, but is failing in her schooling a bit because she's living in a van with her family of 8. Mr Speaker, she is definitely not renovating. I'd also like to know if the Prime Minister will apologise to the disabled mum with children who has been shoved out of her rental property because her community is now unaffordable and out of her reach, and she is finding herself at the back of the line trying to rent another property in another cheaper area and trying to find an appropriate house. Mr Speaker, that mum is not renovating. I have another question and wonder whether the Prime Minister will apologise to the family of 15-day-old baby Meriana, who was welcomed to Te Puia Marae just very recently because her family were living without a home. Mr Speaker, baby Meriana is not renovating. I would also like to know from the Prime Minister whether he will advise his ministers to go and visit Te Puia Marae as a first step and part of the government's commitment to urgently addressing this housing crisis. Mr Speaker, there is one renovation that Te Puia Marae need to do because one of their buildings where they are storing mountains of clothing donated by generous and also poor income people in their community is filled up the room and there are no lights in there at night. And when I was working in that room with the marae, we could only work till 5 o'clock before it got dark. Mr Speaker, it is quite possible that Te Puia could do some renovating. Mr Speaker, Paula Bennett yesterday on television news refused to give Te Puia Marae and other marae who are now stepping up like Manurewa to help the homeless any official status as emergency housing providers. She refused because she said, oh no, because year after year after year, the marae will just keep having to help these homeless people. Mr Speaker, the Minister admitted that her government can't actually solve the housing crisis and instead wants New Zealanders to accept that this is normal. And most New Zealanders, kind, compassionate, ordinary New Zealanders, do not accept that this is normal. They understand that this government is doing its best to do as little as they can, rather than all we can, to ensure that families are in warm, dry, affordable homes. So, Mr Speaker, when the Greens are in government, I look forward and I understand that New Zealanders want us to do all we can to ensure and use all the tools and resources that we have to ensure that all New Zealanders are living in a warm, dry, affordable home and are not just renovating. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Mr Speaker.